Good afternoon for joining us and welcome to the latest format webinar designed to offer tips and insights on ways in-house resourcing teams can improve their talent attraction and engagement strategies. So in this latest session, we're looking at the analytics of the career sites, i.e. what to measure and how, because one of the questions we constantly get asked here at Format when we're talking to various clients is about the analytics and specifically Google Analytics and actually what you can derive from that. It seems like alchemy and a mystic mystery, but actually it's not. It's very, very simple. Now we all know obviously that the career site is one of your key weapons in your talent attraction armory. Let's face it, it's your shop window, it's what you use to draw people in, it's what you use to tell your story, and ultimately what you want to use to get people to apply to your jobs. But do you know actually how well it's performing in that task? The truth is most people don't. So here with some very simple and easily action tips on what to measure and how is Format's account director David Johnston, or DJ as he's known to his friends and clients, who will take us through some of these tips. Now as usual the webinar will last for around 25 minutes and there will be time for questions at the end. So if there's anything that isn't completely clear, please tap away and we'll answer those questions at the end. So, so DJ, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jamie, and good afternoon. Welcome. I think this is now must be our 5th or 6th webinar since December. Google Analytics, as Jamie said, understanding it's one of the things that I've been asked over, God, as long as Google Analytics has been around by clients, what am I looking for? What do I need to do? It's one of the things that people know it's there, they know it's important, they know it's useful. But actually, what do I need to look for? So what I'm going to do in the next 15-20 minutes is really just give you some of the things that really I look for and that I have looked for when I've been managing websites, and then what I do when I'm working with clients now on their own websites. So the first question is, why do analytics matter? We have a website. Why do we need to know what's going on? Well, there's a lot of things we want a website to do. There's lots of what I call goals. Ultimately, as a career website, recruitment website, we're ultimately looking for people to apply for a job. If they're not, there isn't a job that's relevant, but they've got an interest in the business, they've got an interest in finding out more. Is it possible for them to register an interest? Something that people that have worked agency side, with recruitment agencies, will probably just think of as in terms of general registration. So registration for opportunities that might be available. It's something that's becoming more common with corporate clients now, giving people the opportunity to actually register on spec, but not feel that their application or registration, CV, whatever you're collecting, is going into a black hole. How well is that doing? Referring a friend. We want people, if a job that may not be of interest, or there may be something that somebody sees for the interest of somebody else, share it. Social media has been around quite a while now, and sharing the content is quite commonplace. Want to read your blogs or your articles, view videos. We are constantly now talking at events and conferences. Jamie and I were at a conference yesterday, and a lot of the talk is around communicating employer brands. So telling your company's story, telling your employees' story through blogs, articles, videos, case studies, testimonials. There's lots of content out there. People want to know, is that working? Send their CV. You may, for some jobs, just want a CV. In some roles, I was talking to people yesterday. For example, the trouble with recruiting drivers at the moment is that HGV drivers, they don't have a CV, but actually what they want to do is collect some key bits of information, in terms of some work history. So giving the ability to actually send through some information, if not the CV, is very important. Sign up for job alerts. You haven't got a job now relevant, but actually I'd like to get a job by email come through. And becoming more common is acting more in what I would call a traditional, bit of old-fashioned recruitment consultancy approach, in terms of, I want to contact a recruiter. I've got some clients who are using a model that really, I will remember, and those of you who remember, were pre-internet recruitment, in the 90s, will remember that people picked up the phone or dropped you a line later in the 90s when email arrived. Sometimes it's things like that, but how well is that working? And also sharing content, in terms of you want people to share your content, you want them to help do your work for you, not just people who are looking for a job, but actually make it easy for your employees to share content. So analytics is all about understanding what is actually working. What is a visitor to your website actually interested in, what they're reading, and what is it that's actually converting them to do something. And you can apply a conversion rate to any action or any piece of content that you want people to actually find or carry out an action on a website. And it's typically, it's a case of it's unique visitors, so these are individuals, divided by, in this instance, applications gives you a conversion rate. But the applications could be substituted with download of, view a video, download an article, view a testimonial, something like that. You want to know what is actually working. So if we take a traditional approach in terms of it creates a conversion funnel, and those of you who were on a webinar we did back before Easter, you'll recognize the conversion funnel. And the conversion funnel is simply looking at the very top of your funnel, how many people actually come into the website, your unique visitors, so that's individuals. So we look at this in terms of conversion rate into applications. So somebody reads a vacancy, they're interested in the advert you've written, and they click apply. At that point, we're capturing that bit of information, the people that clicked apply in Google Analytics, and that tells us the application conversion rate. But it's more important than that these people then go through and actually have an application form. Now, whether that is a quick application form on the website and that is passed through with their CV via an API into the ATS, as we do with Taleo and as we do with Lumes and several others, or whether it's a case of they land on the applicant tracking system page and then go through the application process. It's understanding how many then get to a completed application, and that gives you the total conversion rate. So it's very important to look at all parts of the actual journey to understand where you're potentially you may actually have drop-offs. And in the side there you might notice mobile and desktop. I'll come on to this later, but it's in terms of it's not just about how many people actually go through a process on desktop, but actually how many people are on mobile. So before you start, it's a case of understanding what does good look like. I had a client come to me with some analytics that their HR director was looking at, and they said, we've got an application rate of 150 applications to a hire, and we're a bit concerned that's a poor application rate. I said, well, actually, is it? Your website's doing very well. It's attracting lots of visitors. It's attracting lots of people, actually converting them into applications. Your old website many years ago wasn't generating many visitors, so therefore your actual number of applications was relatively low. So you could actually say that 10 applications per hire, if your website's only attracting 1,000 visitors a month, that's actually quite a low number of people actually converting to applications. So therefore, you don't have many people applications per hire. But conversely, the new website is creating 10 times that number of visitors, and therefore is actually creating 10 times the number of applications, which gives you a better choice of candidate. A mixture. Yes, there's going to be some people that aren't necessarily suitable, but you're getting much higher number of quality candidates. But actually, your applications to hire rate is a lot higher. So it's one of those stats that I've heard several times, but actually it isn't really a stat that makes any sense because it needs to be put into context. So it's understanding what you're looking to try and achieve. So let's start at the beginning. Excuse me. How many visitors actually land on the site? So this is an example of an overview which tells me the number of visitor sessions. So here on the far left, so these are actual individual visits. Google changes its terminology fairly regularly, but sessions is actual number of actual visits. And then we have users. So users are unique users. So they are people that may have come back to the site more than once, but they're actually only one. They may have visited the site twice, but they're actually only one user. You then see the number of page views, and what that does is basically allows it to filter down to see how many page views per session. Now, it's interesting. People look at this often and say, "Oh, that's not very many," but actually, you typically, with recruitment sites, will get between 3.5, 4, and about 6 pages. Because people are often very focused on looking for a job, and often you'll drive a lot of traffic to specific vacancies, and I'll come into that later. So it's a case of this is the average number of pages per session. What is more important is actually looking at the average session duration. Anything from 2.5 minutes to 4 minutes is fairly standard on a well-optimized and user-centric career website or recruitment website. And the reason, it shouldn't be too high. And people say, oh yes, we've got lots of people staying on site for a long time. Actually, when you look at how the site in what they're actually accessing and how they're using it, the reason it's so high is because it's so difficult to find things. So actually, they're spending an awful lot of time trying to find content. Bounce rate is really important. So here we have 47.25%. Bounce rate are people that have visited the website and leave immediately from that page. So they don't go into any other page on the website, they just leave straight away. So obviously what we're trying to do is get people to actually read content. So we want to get the bounce rate as low as possible. And I'll come into some of the reasons bounce rate can be quite high, but really you need it under 50%. Anything below 40% is getting very good, and if you're into the 30s, you've got a site that is people are actually staying on and actually engaging with. It's very rare in recruitment to get it that low, and I'll come on to the reasons for that. And the little graph on the right here, the little pie chart, shows new visitors versus returning visitors. What you want, this is what I would call a healthy new versus returning visitor pie chart. Typically it tends to be about 1/3 returning and 2/3 new. If you've got something that's, you've got too many that are returning, basically showing your website's not growing, it's not attracting new visitors, it's not attracting a new audience. So if you've got a pie chart that looks like this, it's a pretty healthy website. Below that you can put other information. This one is just showing the language. It's an international site, so you would well expect that English is going to be the primary language, but you notice they've got Russian, they've got French, they've got a little others and things like that. Down the other side, various other bits and pieces that are interesting, but I'll focus on what is absolutely core that you need to be looking at. The second part I always look at is in terms of how many mobile visitors you're getting. This is an example of one of our clients in terms of, you can see here the difference between 2015-16 and 2016-17. If you look at desktop, which is the blue, you can see how it's shrunk in the year and how the mobile site has actually grown. An actual mobile, this is handsets, how it's taken market share, so to speak, from tablets. So this is really important when you're understanding what your target audience are using to view websites. Are they on desktop? Are they on mobile phones, or are they on tablets? And it's one of the things that, if you're getting, like this company here, they're getting a 40%, almost 50% of their traffic on a mobile device, making sure your applicant tracking system is mobile optimized, because if you're generating 40% of your traffic on mobile phones, but they can't read or can't carry out an application form, really on your applicant tracking system, there's a problem. So it's a good one to keep an eye on, and I've seen this grow now for over the last probably, 6-7 years, from about 5% mobile use up to 40%. We've got many of our clients, corporate clients, getting between 28 and 35%. Interestingly, recruitment agencies can be slightly lower. It's very interesting that, because ironically their application process is much more mobile friendly. So the next part I'm looking at, so I now know who my visitors are, or rather, sorry, the number of my visitors. What I want to understand is where they're coming from. So this is what I call the channel side of things under talent acquisition. So here it groups visitors by different types. So I can see the organic search here accounts for 59% of my visitors, just under 35,000 of them. Direct, so these are people that are coming direct to the site, they're putting in your web address, or they're coming from somewhere that Google just can't identify. So sometimes Google can't decide where they've actually come from, so it comes a direct visitor. But typically it's people that will already know about you. It also can be people that are coming from, say for example, Outlook on their machine. They get an email, they click on that. All that Google knows is that you've arrived on the website. So whereas actually if they're using Google Mail, Gmail, Hotmail, or any of the others, Google can actually track that more easily and actually specify that they're coming from email. But a lot of the sometimes we get Outlook you can put a tracking code in there that means that you can follow it. Then you got social. You got anything you're doing with paid search. Or anything that's just dealing with display. I'll be absolutely honest, I'm not sure where that one person came from in terms of display. Obviously some form of advertising out there, probably on a job board. So that gives you an idea of broadly where your visitors are coming from. The next part of it is then drilling down into that. So looking at the actual source, so the source medium in terms of what they're actually coming from. So should be no surprises, a lot of people in recruitment, Google Organic is the biggest driver there, with just over 50%. Our recruitment clients and direct employer clients receive anything from sort of like 35% organic through to about 65% organic, depending on the nature of their recruitment and the types of people they're recruiting. You notice there DV3 job alerts /email, so these are jobs by email that we send out, that we have tracking so we can follow. Again, it's having a bit of a resurgence in terms of the number of people clicking on emails or actually subscribing to job alerts by email. This company work in the engineering and oil and gas, so you naturally get some oil and gas job boards. Indeed, for this client, it's not a big driver. Sometimes we'll see this as much as 15% for some agencies. It all depends on the number of vacancies you've actually got advertised. The more vacancies are advertised, the more that Indeed's pulling, the higher up this will go. And then we've got LinkedIn, we've got Facebook, and yes, we have the good old Yahoo is still around there in terms of a search engine, surprisingly after all these years. So we see there that Google's one of the important drivers, and I'd be amazed if no one here has sort of like been involved in conversations around search engine optimization or SEO. But it's really good to understand how Google works, because at the end of the day, whatever we're looking for in life, we pretty much always will start our journey on Google. The phrase "just Google it" came into modern language quite a while ago, and it is a case of I can be sat in front of the TV. I was last night. I'd been at an event, and somebody had said they'd had one of their clients was a key director, and I thought it was Frankie Boyle, but of course it's not Frankie Boyle. It's a certain Doyle, who well known for train spotting and being involved in the Olympics. But it was worst case. My other half said, "I'll Google it." It's exactly the same with jobs. So in terms of people, Google wants to help people find content that's relevant easily and quickly. Google, to just think about, is basically a big filing cabinet, and in that filing cabinet it has lots of drawers, and it's filing pages, and at the top of those drawers, on the labels of the drawers, you might have I don't know, jobs in London. You may have then within that one of those drawers, you may have a folder which is Java developer jobs. So that becomes Java developer jobs in London, and Google is filing it away and categorizing it. So the most important thing, and it's one thing that we talk an awful lot about. When your jobs are hidden in the applicant tracking system, they're not indexed and can't be found properly by Google. For the last 10, 12 years, we've been working with applicant tracking systems to pull those jobs out and index them correctly, so Google can basically put those pages of jobs, which they are pages of content, into the relevant folder within the relevant filing cabinet drawer, so that when somebody searches for Java developer jobs in London, your website and that job comes to the top of the search engine. So when thinking about that, it's effectively what we're doing is making sure that your content on your website is actually titled and is easily found by Google based on what that content's all about. So if we look at the results of that, in terms of, okay, so what are people searching on? So when I start working with an employer that has their applicant tracking system set up, it's all the job searches on there, the jobs are on there. Google Analytics shows me very quickly that sometimes as much as 95% plus of Google traffic is landing on the home page of their career site. And that traffic is pretty much going to be brand names. So these people already know about you and have literally put your job in here. So whether that is Empower, whether it's Harrods, whether it's Debenhams, whether it's Sainsbury's, or whether it's some smaller local business, they already know about you. They want to find you for a job. Then you look at what we call landing pages. So these are pages that have been set up around what people are interested in, so what people are searching on. So that could be retail jobs, it could be jobs in Birmingham, it could be jobs in Solihull, it could be jobs overseas, it could also be job families. So for example, consultancy, engineering jobs, construction jobs, oil and gas jobs. Atkins is a great example about that. They have sectors and they have job areas. And then you have specific jobs. So people, if you search a specific job title or job title and location with Google, invariably what you'll find is a mixture of primary Indeed adverts, how long that remains to be seen, with Google announcing its launch of a job search engine and trials in the US now. Will Indeed be around for much longer? I'm not sure. Job title and location. I'm looking for an account director role. Hey, I'm fed up with traveling into London. I'm looking for an account director role down in Southampton. And I'll be finding jobs that are basically account director roles in Southampton. And then you've got blogs and articles. So recently I was working with a client that saw an enormous amount of traffic driven to their website by an article they'd written on IR35 changes, new payroll rules, and the fact that contractors, the changes that got to be made. Also day in the life articles, working with Icon of clinical research. We get a lot of traffic to days in the life of clinical research associates. So these are very specific, but when you get down to this end, these aren't branded. These are job searches or Google searches that don't have your company name in it. At this end, at the far left, we have homepage, which is pretty much all going to be branded traffic, and these are people that land on your homepage. And then in between, we've got the landing pages. So what does that look like in terms of actual traffic into Google Analytics? So as an example of somebody working an oil and gas sector, if we look in terms of the actual, this is the home page, the first one there with just the blank / only gets about 25%, just under 25% of visitor traffic. So that's 75% of all the Google traffic to this website lands inside the actual website. So as we come down, you can see these are what we call landing pages that are optimized, and content created, the jobs on these pages are based on what people are actually searching on. So construction jobs, Middle East jobs, oil rig jobs, oil and gas jobs, oil and gas jobs in Qatar, things like this. So it's a way of actually identifying and driving traffic to places that people can find relevant content quickly. In the same way as if you searched for LED TVs, invariably you'd find the landing page for LED TVs on Currys, on John Lewis, on Amazon. It is exactly the same process and exactly the same practice that was used in retail that we use in recruitment. And as you can see, we've got some specific jobs that have come out as well. So this is a specific job. This is a specific job. So it's driving traffic. And what that creates is what we call a very long tail. But it gives you an understanding there in terms of how people are coming in at the top of that funnel and how they're actually using your website. So in terms of that's active job seekers, in terms of how they're finding your website. The next part of it is in terms of social, often very much used to tap into a passive audience. So it's understanding how effective that is, because yes, we're using social, but ultimately what you want to do is turn that person into a visitor on the website to engage with you more, and ultimately start basically their orbit from being quite far out in terms of you're the world and they're orbiting around you. They get more and more engaged, they come closer and closer and closer until they land on you, and that landing is effectively the conversion. So what we're looking at here is in terms of total sessions on the website, it's almost 59,000. The social side of things is quite low, so it's probably about around 5% there. Overall conversions, 9,570. Contributed social conversions, so these are visitors that have landed via social, only 358. So from this point of view, socials, they're not really pushing social. But in terms of what channels they're using, as you can see from here, you've got LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and then you've got various low ones down here. So it gives you an indication of what your audience are using to find you. It also allows you to start challenging. So one of the classic ones is in terms of challenging LinkedIn, in terms of the value and return on investment it's actually giving us. So here what I can do, I've basically changed, I've used the source medium LinkedIn, and then what I've done is change the secondary dimension here to show the behavior, the landing page. And what that does, it allows me to show what pages people are landing on from LinkedIn. So I look at the top 10 here, these are all jobs. So the question there is a case of, is LinkedIn a social channel or is it actually a job board? Again, asks you, gives you an indication of what of LinkedIn's assets you're using and paying money for, what's actually working. So a good way of actually, you do that for any of your referring channels. So if you've got people coming back from job boards, you can do exactly the same. So you've now you're starting to sort of like see a profile of what people are actually, where people are coming from, how they're actually using the site, what they're landing on. But it's in terms of measuring how successful that is, going back to the beginning. So we set up goals. So we can set up goals on websites, and you can set up goals on website basically based on a page, so people reaching a specific page. So we've got here, for example, we're interested in on-site applications, so people that actually click the apply button and actually go through, complete a short form application on the website, and then get to a thank you page. So we're measuring how many people actually get through to that thank you page in a variety of different ways. We're also measuring how many people actually sign up for job alerts, because we want to see how successful they are. So what we can basically do, we set up a goal in Google Analytics, and we use that goal, the actual thank you page, as the actual goal completion location. So that tells me that we had 18,639 people actually complete an application on the website. So they got to a thank you, and the application went through to the applicant tracking system. And that's great. That allows us to say that we know that from the website, this number of people actually went through to the application, applicant tracking system, and were found there as a complete application against the vacancy. The bit that we don't know at the moment is, so how many people actually didn't complete that application, but actually clicked on apply? Well, what we've done is actually we've set up an event on the apply button. So we have basically we've effectively put a bit of a counter on that apply button, and we can see the number of people that actually clicked on it. So this is the number of people, number of times the apply button was actually clicked. This is the number of unique people that actually clicked on that apply button. So we know that people apply for more than one job sometimes, but that's why we work on the unique event. So what that allows us to do is see that if I go back, we can see that 18,639 goal completions, but actually 22,954 actually started it. Excuse me. So that means that around 25–26% of people aren't completing that for a variety of reasons. They just decide they don't want to, they haven't got their CV, they might come back, or they think, actually, I'll do this later. What we can say is that when it's for example, the standard Taleo application process, which any of you who are using Taleo will think of as in terms of you click apply, you go through to the two dreaded fields where you sort of like create the login, but most people get confused and think it's actually they can put their registered email address and create an account, whereas actually they can't. We've had people that have got anything from 40% incomplete, people that drop off, through to the worst I had was 80%. So in terms of getting an on-site application form can dramatically reduce it. But one thing I was really surprised at when I presented at an event back in March, and I asked the question, how many people understood and knew what their conversion rate was from the website? Out of about 100 and something people, only 2 people put their hands up. So it's really important to understand. And if any of you are in retail, working for retail companies, just go and talk to your retail marketing people. They will know every single potential drop-off within the website and actually looking at improving that. So it's really important to understand that. And that's where we come back into the conversion rate funnel, unique visitors, people that started the application on the website, people that completed, gives you the total conversion rate. There are more and more companies now where the vacancies are actually on their website rather than just on the applicant tracking system, but the standard application process remains on the applicant tracking system. Now, what we've worked really hard with the ATS companies to do is basically move this line down so that the actual using APIs, and what I mean by an API is a communication method that allows us to collect data on the website and then push it through into the various fields, for example, name, email address, contact number, CV, in the applicant tracking system database. So the user doesn't actually go through to the applicant tracking system, they stay on the website, and if they need to complete other application questions, that is done sort of like by an automated email process behind the scenes, but you haven't lost that visitor. So yeah, it's a quite interesting one how you improve it by pushing that down and actually keep the application process on the website. So we've got a great, we've looked at how many people are converting, what percentage they are, but it's in terms of actually one of the things that analytics allows you to do is see what is actually engaging people. So in terms of what content people are accessing. And it's quite easy, Google Analytics, to look at behavior and look at all the pages that are actually viewed. So here you can see various landing pages. This is in terms of our candidates, how we look after them. In terms of there was a quick send CV, where the offices are based, construction jobs. There's lots of information here. And if you're publishing blogs, you're publishing articles, days in life, it's seeing how important people actually view that content. In terms of, do you have something about the application process? Is that viewed? Is that important? Are there pages that people just never read? It gives you a good indication of what's engaging. So, in summary, one of the things is first of all, in terms of with analytics and Google Analytics specifically, if you want to start and to go away and take 3 things away, it's a case of understand how many visitors you receive, how many people are coming in at the top of that funnel, because you'll know how many applications you're getting. 2, understand where they come from. This is your marketing, this is your talent attraction strategy. What are we using? What channels are we using? What is successful? Where are they landing in the website? What is actually attracting them, engaging them? Is it, in terms of search, they're going through to specific vacancies? Is it a case of they're going through to specific landing pages? Or are they going to the home page and then having to navigate? And finally, how many of those visitors actually convert into an applicant? And those 3 things are pretty much, if you're going to start anywhere, those are the 3 things you need to look at. I hope that's been useful. I'll open this up to any specific questions.
Thank you very much, DJ. So you can, judging by that, you can see why this is really important stuff and the benefits it will give you from understanding all this. So we've got some questions coming through. First one, which we get a lot, is what exactly is organic? So we looked at that in terms of where the traffic's coming from. What does organic mean? So it's quite a broad term.
Yeah, organic is an interesting. Organic is something that is basically Google attributes to any method of attracting somebody, whether it's through the search engine, Indeed, Bing, and basically it calls it organic traffic. So what it is it means that you're not paying for that search traffic. It's not Google PPC, it's not Indeed PPC, it's not paid for adverts on other websites.
Cool. Pretty straightforward then, really, in that case, isn't it? Somebody's asking, where do I actually find my Google Analytics?
Yeah, it's a great one. It's something I get asked an awful lot. It's quite an easy question, and in terms of the best place to start is look at whoever looks after your website, your career site, and just ask a question. There is a way of checking in the code of the actual website, but the quickest question is literally to ask either it's IT, marketing, or if you're in a position where your career website is managed by the in-house recruitment team, ask who's been involved with that, and they should be able to tell you straight away.
Yeah, so it is available to everybody, isn't it? So, guys, as we're going along, please feel free to type in questions as we go. These are questions that have come in during the course of the webinar. Someone's asking, is it possible to see the conversion rates for individual jobs?
Good question, very good question. And the short answer is yes. So if I just flick back in here to the actual pages that people are viewing, you can look at in terms of who's viewing what. But if I go back a bit further to where we're going, in terms of here, in terms of for example, this is LinkedIn. So you can see these are specific pages. You can view analytics on any specific page. You just have a little search box there that you actually push in, put the actual URL, and then you can see that specific page. But if you look here, you've got goal conversion. So you can see the overall LinkedIn goal conversion is 12.37%, but you can see the specific, we've got a job here, construction director, 27.9%. So yeah, that's an example of a job that's actually attracting people and converting them. Just had a question pop in there whilst we've been talking. Can you attribute cost saving to organic search traffic? Absolutely. So in terms of, there's a couple of ways of doing that. In terms of, Jamie was talking about identifying conversion rates for specific jobs. It is also possible to actually pass through the source code. So for example, the referring site, so for example, organic search traffic, let's take Google. A visitor has come via Google to the website. Now, what we can do, and it's possible with several of some of the applicant tracking systems, is we can pass that source through to the ATS against the application. So for example, NPower is a really good example of this. NPower, we push through, every application gets a source. So if they've come through Google, that basically gets pushed through again with that candidate. And each month they run a source report, and that basically tells them how many people have been hired against particular sources. So we know, for example, that when they run customer service, a lot of customer service jobs and customer service campaigns, we know that Google and Indeed are the biggest drivers of applications and hires. So it needs, your applicant tracking system needs to be able to capture it. However, at the most simplistic form, what we do for some clients who haven't got that ability is basically at the end of a month, one of my clients will provide me with a list of all their hires, so name, name, surname, email address, and the date of that they actually arrived on the applicant tracking system, so registered date. What we then do is match that with the data we're capturing, and we're capturing the source in the website for them against every application, and we can match the two together. So there's several ways of doing it, but absolutely, in terms of, so I was just reading another question there. So absolutely, you can attribute cost savings or hires, and then you can look at your average cost if you had to find that person for an agency, for example. So I'm just trying to read another one here that's come in. So yeah, just saying, you're not paying for it but directly, but you can tell your boss that you're saving X amount. That's a brilliant one. It's actually a lot more scientifically. You're not paying for it directly. You're absolutely right. But it's in terms of, so for example, I can tell clients, when they've moved from old websites to the new website, exactly how many hires have come not just from the website, but come from a specific channel on the website. So that means that they, if you've got for example, I had a client, who worked specifically agency. They were about 60% agency reliant. Basically their average agency fee was, I don't know, say £3,500 to £4,000. They halved that actual spend, or halved that use, because they were driving people through the website. So they contribute a direct cost saving to that. But if you've got, if you at the start of the journey have a specific cost per hire, agency hire, you can actually show exactly how much it's reduced. And Empower, their saving is between 3 and 4 million a year, but in terms of not being agency reliant and actually not advertising on job boards. So it's not just about savings for agencies, it's savings from job boards. I hope that answers the question.
Excellent.
Jamie, anything else comes through?
A couple more, yep. They all kind of tie together. Someone's asked, is it possible to track individual users through the process?
So it's not possible to track individual users in Google Analytics. Google Analytics will tell you unique users, but in terms of being able to identify that, you need to go a little bit further. So yeah, I just mentioned about how you can track, people that are applying from Google, people are applying from LinkedIn in terms of passing that originating source through to the applicant tracking system. What we can do, and it's a very similar approach to that's taken in retail, is that every single visitor is tracked by, we use additional analytics on our websites that track individual users, and it uses cookies. So when someone, and it's part of the pop-ups that say cookies are used to track and make your experience more relevant. Now we track anonymously, in terms of somebody who has landed on the site. We don't know anything more than the fact that they're a unique individual. They may come back from the same machine 2 days later. We know that person's the same person. They may then decide they want to apply for a job. At the point they actually click apply and give us an email address, we can then link all that activity to that individual. And that means we can tell what people are actually looking at before they actually apply. So is somebody mostly active and looking at jobs, or has somebody been reading blogs and finding out more about the company? So we often find that the majority are active job seekers, but then you see a significant number of people that are attracted by blogs as the first landing point on the website, and then within a few months, actually they turn into an active candidate and apply for a job. So people are early in their browsing and research period. We then can track that back when they actually click and apply. We also do it in terms of somebody sets up a job alert. So exactly the same. As soon as we got that email address, we can link activity to them. So no, Google Analytics won't allow you to say a specific person, individual, but by overlaying it with other analytics, yes, you can.
Yeah, there's a lot you can find with various analytics, isn't there? And this is, unless anything pops up in the next couple of minutes, this seems to be the last question. It came in earlier, but we thought we'd save it till last. Is there training available for Google Analytics? Because it can look a bit scary, let's face it.
Yeah, like everything. I think the one thing about it is Google Analytics, because it is a free platform, you can go and take courses with a number of people and they have various different levels of Google Analytics user. It's not that expensive. There's online courses that can be very, very low cost. There's a lot of online research out there. There's a lot of people that publish how-to guides, and Google themselves have very good support functionality. So yeah, I think the first step is actually getting it set up, and actually just read some online reports, online support groups, and you see what the main headings are for. And then from there, it's actually very intuitive. So it's like audience, behavior, acquisition. In there you have various different things you can click on. I learned Google Analytics by just clicking on things and literally looking at what it was saying, and then realizing it's very intuitive. A lot of it's just common sense. But when you get stuck, there's a great number of pieces out there that can help you find things.
It becomes quite familiar quite quickly, doesn't it? Once you get used to the charts and the graphs and everything.
But if anybody's got anybody has any questions, reach out to me. It's something I do an awful lot. My contact details, I'm just going to click here. Contact details at the end here. Oops. So please feel free to reach out. It's something I'm passionate about, because if you don't understand what's working, how can you actually make intelligent decisions?
And that's in relation to also to anything related to careers websites generally. So
exactly.
DJ is the oracle of all knowledge. So thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We are recording this session, so we will forward this out so that you can refer back to it at a later date, share it amongst your teams, and have it there on file. And we'll also be in touch with details of our next webinar, which will be taking place next month. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next session.
Thank you.